Hey kids! For today, we will discuss fundamental trigonometric identities. So first, let's define what an identity is. So an identity is an equation that is true for any value of the variable. For example, x plus x equals 2x is an identity. Since, as we all know, if you add a number to itself, you get twice of that number. However, x plus 1 equals 2 is not an identity. Why? This only works if x equals 1. So for example, if I use, let's say, x equals 5, we have 5 plus 1 equals 6, but it's not equal to 2. So that means this one right here is not an identity. So once again, for an equation to be an identity, the equation should be true for any value of the variable as long as the expressions that we have are defined. So for today, what we will do is first and foremost, uh, identify what the fundamental trigonometric identities are, and after that, we will try to prove more identities using these fundamental trigonometric identities. So let's start first by recalling the definition of your trigonometric functions. So recall, suppose that you have the point, suppose you have the point xy, and you have r being the distance between the point xy and the origin, which is this one right here. Then we have the following trigonometric functions. First one is sine theta being equal to y over r. You have cosine theta being equal to x over r. Then you have your tangent theta being equal to y over x. Then we have cotangent theta to be equal to x over y. Next one, we have your secant theta being equal to r over x, and cosecant theta being equal to r over y. So first, let's draw the relationship between these three right here. So you might be thinking why I wrote from right to left when I'm in the second row. That's because one can observe that cotangent theta, which is x over y, is just the reciprocal of y over x, right? But by definition, this y over x is tangent theta. Sorry. The one in the denominator rather is tangent theta. So we have right here that cotangent theta is equal to 1 over tangent theta. Then similarly, one can draw the same observations. R over x is just the reciprocal of x over r. So this one right here is just 1 over cosine theta. And this one right here, r over y, is just the reciprocal of y over r. So cosecant theta is just the reciprocal of sine theta. This gives us the so-called reciprocal identities. So I'll just put theorem, let's say 1.1. We have the so-called reciprocal identities. So first one is tangent theta being equal to 1 over cotangent theta. Then second one, we have secant theta equals 1 over cosine theta, and the third one is cosecant theta being equal to 1 over sine theta. So I think it's quite obvious why we called it reciprocal identities. That's because these three right here are just the reciprocals of sine, cosine, and tangent, respectively. Another conclusion that we can draw is something related to your tangent theta and cotangent theta. So, observe that by definition, tangent theta is equal to y over x. However, take note that our r is a positive number since, okay, I forgot to say it here that we are considering points that are not the origin. So, if we're considering points that are not the origin, then this one should be strictly greater than 0. So, since r is greater than 0, we can try and multiply the numerator and denominator by r. And what will happen here? As you can see, we have a term right here of y over r, and for the other side, we have r over x. So let's write it in this manner, y over r times r over x. And now, what's y over r? By definition, we said that y over r is sine theta. So this one right here would be sine theta. And r over x, based on our definition, is secant theta. So we have times secant theta right here. But by theorem 1.1, so I'll put here by theorem 1.1, by 1.1, secant theta is just 1 over cosine theta. So we have sine theta times 1 over cosine theta, finally giving us sine theta over cosine theta. So what did we do? What we did basically is write your tangent function in terms of the sine and cosine function. And similarly, we can do that with your cotangent theta by taking note that cotangent theta from theorem 1.1 right here, we can also say that this one is cotangent theta equals 1 over tangent theta. So let's write that in that manner. We have 1 over tangent theta, which by our derivation above, tangent theta is just sine theta over cosine theta. So we have 1 all over sine theta over cosine theta, which in effect just means we're taking the reciprocal of the 1 in the denominator. So we have right here cosine theta over sine theta. So as you have seen, we have also written your cotangent theta in terms of cosine theta and sine theta only. So these two are actually one of the fundamental identities as well, which we will call the ratio identities. So let me call this theorem 1.2. We have the ratio identities. So we have here first tangent theta equals sine theta over cosine theta, and second one cotangent theta equals cosine theta over sine theta. So why did we call this the ratio identity? We call this the ratio identity since we are expressing these two functions as ratios of sine and cosine. Okay? That's not the last of our fundamental identities. We can also derive the so-called Pythagorean identities. So, what are those Pythagorean identities? First, let's consider your point function. So, let theta be in R and consider the point function P of theta equals xy, where xy is a point in the unit circle. It's a point in the unit circle. So recall from our discussion before, or should I say note, that we can write x and y in terms of theta. So by definition, p theta equals xy can be written as cosine of theta sine theta. And since p of theta is a point in the unit circle, that means that x squared plus y squared equals 1. But what's x? From this one, we said that x is cosine theta and y is sine theta. So we have right here cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. So this one right here is the first Pythagorean identity. So I'll just put star here since we will be using this to derive the other identities. So from this one, we can do two things. First is divide both sides by sine squared theta. And second one, we can try and divide both sides by cosine squared theta. So let's do them. So first, dividing star by sine squared theta, what do we get? So we have here cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta all over sine squared theta equals 1 over sine squared theta. The one on the right side can be written as 1 over sine theta raised to 2. And in the other side, observe that we can split this fraction into sums since your addition is in the numerator. So we have cosine squared theta over sine squared theta plus sine squared theta over sine squared theta. But this one right here is just equal to 1. So we have cosine squared theta over sine squared theta plus 1. And similarly, just like what we did on the right side, we can bring out the square. So we can bring out the square and write this as cosine theta over sine theta raised to 2. What's this one right here? So from theorem 1.1, so by theorem 1.1, the one on the right side would be cosecant squared theta. And this one right here by theorem 1.2, so I think I should add here 2.2, and theorem 1.2, This one right here is just cotangent squared theta. So cotangent squared theta. And so we have our second identity, which is this one right here. Let me box this one as well. Oops. Okay. So this one right here is your second Pythagorean identity. The third one comes by dividing star by cosine squared theta. So next, dividing star by cosine squared theta. By cosine squared theta, what do we get? So we have here cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta all over cosine squared theta equals 1 over cosine squared theta. Then similarly, we can do the same trick. Split this one into two fractions. The first one will just become 1, and the second one becomes sine theta over cosine theta raised to 2. So we have 1 plus sine theta over cosine theta quantity raised to 2 equals, for the right side, we can write this as 1 over cosine theta raised to 2. But what's this one and this one? So by theorem 1.1, and theorem 1.2, this one right here is tangent theta. So we have tangent squared theta. And this one right here, 1 over cosine theta, is just secant theta. So we have secant squared theta. And this one right here is the third Pythagorean identity. So we are now ready to state theorem 1.3. So we have theorem 1.3, which is the Pythagorean identities. So first one is this one right here, star, which is cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. Then the second is this one right here, cotangent squared theta plus 1 equals cosecant squared theta. And lastly, we have this one right here, 1 plus tan squared theta equals secant squared theta. Okay, so we have done our first goal for today, which is to derive the fundamental trigonometric identities. This time, what will we do? We will look at some other identities and try to prove them using the 3 theorems that we have right here. And actually, this is what you will also do in the homework that I am assigning to you, as well as in the upcoming exam. You'll also prove some identities there. So, before proving, I guess I want to give some tips and tricks. So some tips. Okay. First one, it's a good thing to start with the more complicated expression. So what do I mean? For example, you have the identity, let's say cosine squared theta equals cotangent squared theta all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta. Most of the time, it's easier to start with the one that looks more complicated. In this case, it's this one. It's better to start here simply because there's a lot going on in the expressions here, and that means that you can manipulate more stuff. So the reason here is that there's a lot more there's a lot more that you can do with a more complicated expression. Second tip, if you get stuck, try to start with the conclusion and work backwards. What do I mean? For example, you want to show that a certain expression A is equal to B. Usually, what we're doing is start with one side and hopefully end with the other side. So sometimes we'll do like this: A is equal to something, which is equal to something, and unfortunately, we get stuck with another expression, say C. And if we don't know what to do with this C, what we can do is work on the side and start with B, then do some stuff until eventually you reach C. So I would like to call this a side computation. But this one right here will not actually be part of your main solution. This is just some sort of an exploration that we're doing. So what you're doing here is, hopefully from the conclusion, you can work backwards to get this expression right here. Then finally, we can import what we did in the side and eventually reach B. Okay? So this is just a side computation. It's not formally a part of your proof, but this is essential, especially if you got stuck in a certain expression. So try to work backwards. And this one is a good dirty trick, some of dirty tricks that I have learned. So some dirty tricks. First dirty trick that I can share is multiplying by the same expression in the numerator and denominator. So for example, you have this expression right here, 1 over 1 minus sine theta. This one is too simple in a way that we cannot really manipulate a lot of stuff here. However, by multiplying the same expression in the numerator and denominator, for example, we can try and multiply 1 plus sine theta over 1 plus sine theta. Why is this one valid? As you can see, you have the same thing in the numerator and denominator. So basically, what we're doing here is we're multiplying by 1. So by doing this, In the numerator, you already get 1 plus sine theta. And in the denominator, you have 1 minus sine squared theta. And this one right here, observe that if sine, we have this identity, cosine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Then transposing sine squared theta to the other side, we have cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. So we can write this as 1 plus sine theta over cosine squared theta. So this is a very neat trick, since what we're doing is given an expression, we are rewriting it into an entirely different manner just by multiplying by 1. Another trick that I can give is adding and subtracting by the same thing. So as an example, we can go back to something that's similar to this one. Let me just change this one. Let's say I want to rewrite negative sine theta all over 1 minus sine theta. One good trick that we can do here is add and subtract by 1. So we can add 1 and subtract by 1. What happens if we do this? Basically, what we are doing is just rewriting 0. We're just rewriting 0 because you added one thing and you subtracted by the same thing. So you're just balancing things out. Then we have here divided by 1 minus sine theta. And as you can see, by doing that dirty trick, you have 1 minus sine theta in the numerator. So 1 minus sine theta all over 1 minus sine theta becomes 1. And you're left in the other side, 1 over 1 minus sine theta. So as you can see, just by adding and subtracting, you get an entirely new expression again. The bad thing that I should say is that sometimes it's not quite apparent when to do these techniques. But upon practice, you will have some sort of an instinct on when to use these kinds of tricks. So without further ado, let's have our examples for today. So examples. For the first set of examples, let's try and prove some identities. So prove the following identities. So letter A, we have cosine squared theta equals cotangent squared theta all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta. One thing that I would have to say is that in proving identities, there's no one way to do it. So it's possible for us to have different kinds of solutions. So it is possible to have different kinds of solutions. For this one, I guess I can present two solutions. So first and foremost, let's analyze what's the equation. So in the left side, you have cosine squared theta, And in the right side, you have some sort of a rational expression involving cotangent theta. So since we have a lot to work with on the other side, I want to start there. So let's start with cotangent squared theta all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta. Maybe I label this as solution 1 or proof 1. Okay. Proof 1. So as you can see, in the numerator, you have both cotangent squared theta. However, you have a plus 1 right here, so you cannot cancel them. Maybe one good trick that we can do is add and subtract 1. So why do I want to add and subtract 1? If I do that, I'll have here cotangent squared theta plus 1, which is the same as the one right here. So we can do that. So we have cotangent squared theta plus 1 minus 1 all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta. And this one right here is just 1. Then minus this one right here, the one that's remaining. So we have minus 1 all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta. But what's this one right here? If we will go back to our Pythagorean identities, 1 plus cotangent squared theta is just cosecant squared theta. So by theorem 1.3, okay, maybe I'll just put it somewhere here below so that I can make some notes. So first step, what we did is add and subtract 1. Then here, we use the fact that, what we did here is simplify. Then next, using the fact that 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals cosecant squared theta, we can write this one as 1 minus 1 all over cosecant squared theta. But what's this one right here? This one right here is just 1 over cosecant theta raised to 2. And the one inside, 1 over cosecant theta, is just sine theta. Since sine and cosecant are just reciprocals of each other. So this one right here is just 1 minus sine squared theta. That's because cosecant theta and sine theta are reciprocals of each other. Reciprocals of each other. Then finally, we can further simplify this by using the fact that cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. And if we put sine squared theta on the other side, we have cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. So we have right here cosine squared theta, which is the one that we want to prove right here. And that's the end for our proof. I'm using this box to signify that we are done with the proof, okay? So if you see me use this box again in future examples, that just means that I am done with the proof. Okay? So what did we do in this first proof? Basically, we added and subtracted 1 and used some identities that we know such as Pythagorean identities and reciprocal identities. However, there's an easier way to actually prove this one. So, instead of adding and subtracting 1, maybe we can start with this Pythagorean identity right away. So, we have cotangent squared theta all over 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals, so let's retain the numerator, but for the denominator, we will be using this identity right here. So we have all over cosecant squared theta. So what we just did here is use the identity 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals cosecant squared theta. And then, we can write this expression as cotangent theta all over cosecant theta raised to 2, which, upon rewriting, first, we have cotangent theta, which we can write as cosine theta over sine theta, and we have right here 1 over cosecant theta, which is just equal to sine theta. So we have here times sine theta raised to 2. And since you have sine theta in the numerator and denominator, we can cancel them, further giving us cosine squared theta. So right here, what we just did is use some ratio identities. Okay? So as you can see, we have one equation or one identity that we want to prove, but we were able to produce two different proofs for that one. So what am I saying here? The moral of the story is that there is more than one way. There is more than one way to prove identities. Now, it is up to you to determine if what you're doing is making your life easier or harder. So, for example, here, we have seen that using the Pythagorean identity already makes your life easier, so you can continue with that. But for this one, adding and subtracting 1 would lead to a slightly longer but not too bad proof. So, it really depends to you how you will approach a problem, and you will learn what to do upon practice. So, keep on practicing to know what to do. To know what to do. Okay? So let's proceed to our second example. Let's proceed to our second example. Let's try and prove 1 over secant theta minus tangent theta equals secant theta plus tangent theta. So, how do we proceed with this one? Maybe what we can do is start with the left side. Observe that you have a secant theta minus tangent theta right here. So maybe it's convenient to multiply and divide by the same expression. So let's try that one. So we have that Okay, proof. We have that 1 all over secant theta minus tangent theta equals, so let's just copy that one, then multiply by the same thing in the numerator and denominator, all over secant theta plus tangent theta. What do we get in the numerator? So in the numerator, we have secant theta plus tangent theta, and in the denominator, what we have here is a difference of two squares. So we have here secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta. Now, what else can we do? So, as you can see, you have here a secant and the tangent that is squared. So, maybe somewhere along the way, this leads us to a Pythagorean identity. So, let's revisit Theorem 1.3 and observe that right here, you have an identity which involves both secant squared and tangent squared. So, what's our expression currently? We have secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta. And observe that if you move tangent squared theta on the other side, we get secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta. And in the other side, what's left is 1. So, using the fact that 1 plus tangent squared theta equals secant squared theta, the 1 in the denominator becomes 1, and the 1 in the numerator is secant theta plus tangent theta, finally giving us secant theta plus tangent theta, which is the one on the right side. So that's the end of proof for number 2. Oops, I cannot draw a square. Yeah, I guess that's okay. It's not a square. So as you can see, the main trick that we did is this one right here. We tried to multiply and divide by secant theta plus tangent theta. Usually, these kinds of techniques are helpful if you have something in the denominator that is separated by a minus or a plus. Okay? So, if you see something that looks like this, maybe it's a sign to do some multiplying and dividing. Okay? Is there a different way to prove this one? Maybe you can try on your own free time. What happens if you write the right side as 1 over cosine theta plus sine theta over cosine theta? Maybe doing that would lead to something else, but I'm not exactly sure what will actually happen there. So, let's move to our next example. For number 3, let's try 1 minus sine theta over 1 plus sine theta equals secant theta minus tangent theta squared. Okay? This one looks a little bit more complicated than usual. So, what can we do here? Both sides are quite complicated, so maybe we can produce two proofs if we start from the right side and another proof if we start from the left side. But I guess let's try first what will happen if we start from the left side. So you have here 1 minus sine theta over 1 plus sine theta. As you can see, we have the same thing from number 2. In the denominator, you have two terms that is separated by a plus sign. So maybe we can do the same dirty tactic, which is to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same thing. So usually what we want to do is to have a difference of two squares in the denominator. So maybe we can try and multiply the numerator and denominator by 1 minus sine theta. So multiplying and dividing. Then in the numerator, we get 1 minus sine theta raised to 2. And in the denominator, this just results to 1 minus sine squared theta. From here, we can move two ways. So first, let's simplify the denominator. So recall that sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. So transferring this to the right side, we get cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. So the denominator becomes cosine squared theta. And for the numerator, we can expand this expression right here. So we have the square of a binomial, that's just this one squared. So that's 1 minus 2 times the product of this one. So we have minus 2 sine theta. Then plus sine squared theta. Okay. Let me move that one. So what we just did here is in the numerator, we expanded. In the denominator, we used the fact that cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. Then from here, what can we do? What can we do kaya? Maybe let's try and see what we want to achieve first. So I'll do some side computations here. So let's try and start from our conclusion. We have here that secant theta minus tangent theta raised to 2. Let me label this as side computation. This one right here can be expanded by the square of a binomial. So you have secant squared theta minus twice the product of these two, minus 2 secant theta tangent theta. Then we have plus tangent squared theta. But what's this one? Maybe we can write this into expressions in terms of sine and cosine theta. So why do we want to write these in terms of sine and cosine theta? That's because this expression right here where we're stuck are expressions in terms of sine and cosine theta. So first, we have secant squared theta. Take note that secant theta is 1 over cosine theta. So secant squared theta is just 1 over cosine squared theta. Then minus, you have 2 times secant theta can be written as 1 over cosine theta, and tangent theta can be written as sine theta over cosine theta. Then lastly, you have tangent squared theta tangent is just sine over cosine. So squaring that, we have sine squared theta over cosine squared theta. And what do we see here? This one right here is this term right here. And this term right here is exactly this one. How about this term right here? 2 times 1 over cosine theta times sine over cosine theta. That one is just minus 2 times sine theta over cosine squared theta, which is exactly this one right here. So by our side computation, it is suggested that we split our fraction into sums and differences. So we have 1 over cos squared theta minus 2 times sine theta over cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta over cos squared theta. The first term becomes secant squared theta. Then you have minus 2 times. By this one, we split it in this manner. So 2 times 1 over cosine theta times sine theta over cosine theta plus sine squared theta over cosine squared theta is just tangent squared theta. Then finally, we have secant squared theta minus 2 times 1 over cosine theta, that's just secant theta, and sine over cosine is just tangent, and plus tangent squared theta. And finally, we can write this as secant theta minus tangent theta raised to 2 by this part right here. So, we have already proven this equation right here, 1 minus sine theta over 1 plus sine theta equals the square of secant theta minus tangent theta. And as you can see, our main trick right here is this part where we multiplied and divide. Then after that, we did some side computations by starting from the conclusion and hopefully reaching this part where we got stuck. So those are some techniques that you can use in proving trigonometric identities, and eventually you'll understand when to use those techniques. Okay? One last identity to prove. Let's prove number 4. We have sine cube theta minus cosine cube theta all over sine theta minus cosine theta equals 1 plus sine theta cosine theta. So let's observe this identity right here. This left side has a lot of things happening. First, you have the cube of a sine and cosine. And then the denominator, you have sine theta minus cosine theta. And take note, if you will recall from your basic algebra, x cubed minus y cubed is just x minus y multiplied by the squared of this one, the square of the first term. Then since this is a minus, the second term here would be plus the product of these two. Then finally plus the square of the second term. So this is the difference of two cubes. And what do we see right here? If you make x as sine theta and y as sine theta, this is telling us that the one in the denominator is actually a factor of the numerator. So it's a good thing to start from the left side. So we have that sine cube theta minus cosine cube theta all over sine theta minus cosine theta. By our remark here, this one, we can rewrite the numerator as sine theta minus cosine theta times, so x squared, that's sine squared theta, then plus xy, that's sine theta times cosine theta, and finally plus y squared, that's cosine squared theta. Then all over sine theta minus cosine theta. And since these two are common factors, we can cancel them. Whoosh! We get sine squared theta plus sine theta cosine theta plus cosine squared theta. And what do we observe here? You have a term sine squared and cosine squared. And that's our Pythagorean identity, right? We have sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. So this one right here, sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is just 1. So we have 1 plus sine theta cosine theta, which is the one on the right side of our identity. And that ends the proof for number 4. Number 4 is quite simple, provided that you're familiar with the factoring schemes from basic algebra. So that's a sign for you to recall as well your basic knowledge in algebra. Okay? For the next set of examples, what we will do here is use trigonometric identities to give all circular function values given the following. So first one, the given is tangent x equals 4 over 3 and sine of x is less than 0. So first and foremost, what can we do? Right here, you're given tangent x. So one of the more obvious things to find here, if we will go back to our identities, let's start with the reciprocal identities. The most obvious thing to find is cotangent, since they're just the reciprocal of each other. Then after that, we have this theorem 1.3 relating tangent and secant. So using this, we can easily find secant squared theta. So first, given tangent x equals 4/3, we can already find cotangent x, which is just 1 over tangent x, and that's the reciprocal of 4/3, which is 3/4. Then after that, we can find secant squared x, which is just 1 plus tangent squared x. So we have 1 plus 4 over 3 squared, giving us 1 plus 16 over 9. And by adding this, we have 9 here. 9 plus 16, we get 25 over 9. However, this is just secant squared x. So we need the value for secant x. So this means that secant x is the square root of secant squared x, square root of secant squared x, which is equal to, so take note, sine x is less than 0, but tangent x is positive. So recall, tangent x equals sine x over cosine x. And sine x is less than 0, tangent x is greater than 0. So to get a positive number, we need cosine to be negative. And since cosine is negative, it also follows that secant x is negative. So the one that we'll be taking is the negative value. So first, square root of 25 over 9 is just 5 over 3. But since we need secant x to be less than 0, we have here negative 5 over 3. Okay? And since you already have secant x, we can also get cosine x, which is equal to 1 over secant x, giving us negative 3 over 5. So now we have cotangent x, secant x, and cosine x. What's left is sine and cosecant. So first, how do we find for sine of x? Take note, you already have tangent x. And tangent x equals sine x over cosine x. So from here, multiplying both sides by cosine x, we have tangent x times cosine x equals sine x. So we have here sine x equals tangent x times cosine x. Tangent x is 4/3 and cosine x is negative 3 over 5. So cancelling this, we get negative 4 over 5 as your sine. And finally, we get cosecant x equals 1 over sine x, giving us negative 5 over 4. Is this clear? So let's proceed to the second example. This time you are given secant theta equals 2 square root of 3 over 3 and 0 less than equal theta less than equal pi. Okay? So what are our observations? First, if your theta is in between 0 and pi, that means we're considering values in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. But if secant theta is positive, that also means that your cosine theta is positive. And cosine theta corresponds to x coordinates. So that means we are considering values of x which are in this side. Therefore, we are considering only quadrant 1. So let's write that. Since secant theta is greater than 0, this means cosine theta is greater than 0. So we limit ourselves to quadrant 1. So first obvious identity. First obvious circular function value to find is cosine theta, since that's just the reciprocal of secant theta. So we have 3 all over 2 over square root of 3. The next, maybe we can use this cosine theta to find sine. So how will we do that? We have here sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Then transferring here, we get cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. Then finally, obtaining the square root of both sides, we get sine theta equals square root of 1 minus cosine squared theta. So what's this one? We have the square root of 1 minus 3 over 2 square root of 3 squared. This one is equal to 1 minus, so what we just do with this square is distribute in the numerator and denominator. We have here 3 squared equals 9 all over. So what's 2 squared of 3 squared? 2 squared of 3 squared, we can just distribute the powers here. We get 2 squared times 3 equals 12. So we have minus 9 over 12. This one will give us 3 over 12, which is just the same as the square root of 1 over 4, which is 1/2. Then from here, you already have the value of sine and cosine theta. So first, we can find the reciprocal of sine, which is cosecant theta. That's just 1 over sine theta, which is 2. And from here, since you have sine and cosine theta, we can now look for tangent theta, which is sine theta over cosine theta. That one is 1/2 all over 3 over 2 square root of 3. To simplify, we have 1 over 2 times, so we will just get the reciprocal of this one right here. We have 2 square root of 3 over 3. The 2's cancel, giving us square root of 3 over 3. And finally, we get cotangent theta, which is just the reciprocal of tangent theta, which is equal to 3 over square root of 3. Okay? I hope this one is clear. So some reminders. First, the deadline for homework 7 is today. Homework 7. Homework 7 deadline is today, 11:59 p.m. So please submit in Ovle. Then homework 8 is assigned today. And for this homework 8, I have several problems there which you can try. I have mentioned there that you can try and find a partner to work with, and you can choose different problems to solve. If you will look at that homework, for number 1, there are 5 identities, and I'm making you to choose 2. Then for number 2, there are 9 identities. I'm only letting you choose 3. Then for number 3, there are 3 problems. Choose 1. And for number 4, there are, I think, 3 problems as well. You have to choose 1. Then for the bonus, there are several problems. You can choose any amount as long as the maximum sum is only 0.3 points. So why am I asking you to find for a partner? So what you can do is stick to this one, but both of you will choose different problems so that in the end the both of you gets to solve more problems than usual. Although this is a peer work, I am still expecting you to submit individually. And for this one, you can submit the same items, or submit different items that you have tried. For the individual submission, just make sure that you write the name of your partner. By the way, when I say submit individually, that also means that you should write the solutions individually. So even though you answered, let's say, the same items, it should still be you who's writing the solution, since I believe that part of learning is writing solutions by yourself. So that ends our combined lecture and discussion for today. Thank you everyone and see you next time. Keep hydrated everyone. Thank you.